Throughout human history, there have been many that have claimed to have encountered the devil. What's interesting is there's no shortage of stories in which people speak about their encounter with the devil. One of the most famous stories comes from Loftus Hall in Ireland. Loftus Hall is a mansion that's located in Ireland's County Wexford. This impressive looking building is long thought to be haunted, and is even considered by some paranormal researchers to be one of Ireland's most haunted buildings. This is because of the well-known paranormal stories that are attached to the building. Over the years, people who have lived, worked and visited the building have come forward with their paranormal stories. The most famous story is that of a 1765 mystery that still brings in people to this day. For many years the story has been told by the locals, and because of what happened, some even refused to go near the building. The story starts on a stormy night in Ireland. The weather was raging outside and those inside the mansion were bored as they couldn't do anything. During the bad weather though, one of the residents noticed an old-looking ship coming into the nearby bay. As the residents watched, they could see a large person walking towards the house. Back in these times this wasn't rare, as some people would seek shelter during harsh conditions. Once the large individual reached the door, he knocked 3 times and was greeted by those inside. At this point they could see it was a man. He explained that because the weather was treacherous, could he come inside until it calmed down. As mentioned, this wasn't uncommon, so he was let inside. Strangely enough, the man stayed in the house for over a week. The guests were welcoming though, and they didn't mind the man's company. While here, a young resident by the name of Anne started to fall in love with the mysterious man. She would spend many hours a week socializing with him. However, this was soon to come to an end. One rainy night, Anne was playing a game of cards with a stranger. Everything was going fine until she dropped one of her cards. As she bent down to get it, she noticed the man had cloven hooves. She started to panic and let out a loud scream. As she did, the mysterious guest then transformed into the devil. He shot up through the roof, leaving a large hole behind him. Anne was left in a bad way and she was never able to recover from what she'd witnessed. Anne's mental state only got worse and her family decided to lock her away in a room. She stayed here until she passed away. It's thought that after this event the house started to take on a new life. Guests living in the house started to report paranormal activity, with some suggesting that it was Anne, while others thought the mysterious man had brought some kind of curse on the house. Several clergymen tried to put an end to the hauntings, but were never successful. Some have even seen the spirit of a woman in white wandering the building. Some have said this is Anne and that she's looking for answers for what happened on that night. Many people who have visited the house report seeing a part in the ceiling that doesn't match the rest, and they think this is where attempts have been made to patch up the hole. Some have even said there's a dark presence in the room and that something feels off. Loftus Hall has even been featured on shows such as that of Ghost Adventures. Those who have studied the story have said the mysterious man was trying to lure the woman in, and even take her with him, while others have suggested the story is just an old tale. To this day though, many travel from all around to visit the house that the devil once dined at, and every so often someone even manages to capture a picture of an alleged spirit. This isn't the only encounter with the devil. For years people have come forward with their stories of allegedly running into the evil entity. One famous story is that of Johann Faust. However, the story holds a number of details that have left many wondering if such a person ever existed in the first place. In fact, back in the early 17th century, many believe the tale of Johann Faust was nothing more than a fictitious piece, only to be later confirmed by additional accounts made by a variety of other individuals. According to the story of Johann Faust, he had started his education at an incredibly young age, first studying to become a physician. It would not be long before he would boast to be one of the greatest doctors of his time, and would go on to learn a variety of other fields, such as becoming a doctor of philosophy, a brilliant alchemist and astronomer, and then finally feeling dissatisfied with the pursuit of science, one of the greatest magicians the world has ever known. In multiple accounts of Johann Faust, he was turned away by the churches of his time that claimed he had given his life to the evil of magic, after he began boasting to anyone passing by that he was such a powerful magician that he could replicate every single miracle that Christ himself had done. Bored with his power, he used his magical ability to summon the devil himself, and worked to make a deal with him. The deal was he would exchange his soul with the devil if the devil would join him and serve him for a full 24 years in return. This led the devil to conjure up anything that Johann Faust desired, including food, drinks, and a variety of other wants and needs. After roughly 16 years of service, Johann Faust attempted to break the pact, but was persuaded by the devil to enjoy and renew the contract for the remaining 8 years. This was after he had conjured up Helen of Troy to marry him. On the last day of the deal, the devil claimed that by midnight Johann Faust would die. As foretold, when midnight came around, many heard a loud explosion come from the room of Johann Faust, and found his body in pieces all throughout the area. Another strange story comes in the form of a mysterious book. One of the most well-known stories concerning that of a person making a deal with the devil is the existence of the fabled Codex Gigas. The Codex Gigas, which is also known as the Devil's Bible, was supposedly written by the devil himself, and this was after a desperate monk summoned him in exchange for his life. According to the legend, back in 2013 AD, a monastery in Bohemia that made up the monks of the Black Cloth, a radical Christian group of whom devoted their belief to God by performing gruesome acts of starvation and isolation, accepted the terms outlined by one monk who promised to write the greatest book in a single night. The reason for the promise was due to the fact the monk of the monastery had broken such a sacred rule of their monastery that the sin itself was covered up. Those around him decided that the punishment for the monk would be to wall him up alive, essentially trapping him into a mausoleum. This led the monk to quickly promise the monastery that he could earn redemption by crafting the largest book that held all of human knowledge, including magic, medicine, information on herbs, as well as the entire Bible in only one night. The monastery agreed to this outlandish promise on the basis of making a deal with the monk. They would only allow him a chance at redemption if he could create the book in one night, but that if he failed they would continue with their punishment regardless. This led to the monk working throughout the night in a moment of panic, gathering all the supplies necessary and binding the massive book before realizing that it would be humanly impossible to complete the task. At the stroke of midnight, in his desperation, he performed a dark ritual and summoned the devil himself. He quickly promised the devil his soul if the devil himself would use his supernatural powers to create the book and save him from death. In an instant, the devil accepted the deal and wrote the entire book in a single night, fulfilling the promise and saving the life of the monk. Interestingly, in the modern day, when experts took time to look over the book, they found overwhelming evidence that the entire book was written by a single author in an incredibly short amount of time. The expected amount of time to work on such a massive book was expected to be more than a single author's lifetime. However, the entire piece had a constant style of writing, of which is only possible to accomplish by having a lone author, uses the same type of ink made in the same way, as is common with books with a single author, and has an entire page of a drawing of the devil as a reference to the credit of the author. To this day the book is shrouded in mystery. So what do you guys think of these encounters with the devil? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.